All right. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my monthly Ask Me Anything. This is my opportunity to share lessons that I've learned, perspectives that I've gained throughout my career and life, frankly, with those who are interested and for whom it might be helpful. I'm Shellye Archambeau. I'm the author of Unapologetically Ambitious, as well as a technology former CEO, current board director, and advisor, coach, etc. This is my phase two. And in my phase two, I am now spending time trying to share with others what I've learned so that other people can achieve their aspirations. Because one of the things that really irritates me is the fact that more people don't achieve all that they're capable of achieving. And many times, it's not because they aren't ambitious. It's not because they don't work hard. It's not because they don't have the right background. It's because they don't necessarily know the things that they can do to improve their own odds to actually achieve what they want. So every month I do a live YouTube, and for the first time, I'm putting it live on Instagram, where I spend time responding to questions that people have to try to share words of wisdom. So if you have a question or a comment, put it in the YouTube chat. And for those of you that are on Instagram, it's going to be really tough this time for me to actually address questions that come through on the feed. So I'll either put them on for next time, or feel free to jump onto YouTube on my Shellye Archambeau YouTube Live, and you can enter them there in the chat. Okay, welcome everybody. Let's get started. First question: how can someone without board experience get a seat in the boardroom? So fair question. There's actually a lot of conversations going on around serving on boards. So first of all, people don't realize this, but a good percentage in any given year, anywhere from 30 to 40% of board seats go to people who actually have not had board experience before. So yes, it is absolutely possible. The key, though, is to understand what skills and experiences boards are looking for, and then reflect on your own skills and experiences and determine where there might be gaps, and then work on those gaps. Work on gaining skills or gaining experiences that people want when they're looking for people to serve as boards of directors. Because realize these positions are highly coveted and they aren't that many. In any given year, maybe 300 to 400 board seats open up around the country. So you're competing against everyone else who's also interested in serving on a board. So you have to treat serving on a board just like going after any other job. Understand what the skills and experiences are required. And today that's easy to find. Just do a search. Many search firms, accounting firms, etc., do research and actually publish it. Once you understand what those are, reflect on your own experience and compare and contrast and decide where you might have gaps, where you might need to improve and or gain skills and or experiences, and then start focusing on that as part of your overall career journey. Once you've got that figured out, then develop your own value proposition. What can you offer to a board? And then let everyone that you know who works in and around boards know that that's what you're interested in doing. Now, I can't address everything on this question, so I want to hit some of the high levels. But if you go to Shellye Archambeau/blog, I actually put a post out there a few years ago that has a much more detailed webinar on how to actually get your first board seat. So check that out. Okay. Oh, I actually do have one on Instagram. So let me look. Throughout your career, what has been your dominant mindset or competitive edge, especially after dealing with competitors, right, in your sector? Okay. Notice it's a little tough for me to read the questions on Instagram. So I will tell you what's been my really competitive mindset. It's all about being intentional. I set a goal and then I work on how do I actually make that true? What's required to actually achieve what I want to get done or to accomplish or whatever. And I do the research to figure out what's required. And then when I understand what's required, I actually put a plan in place to get it done. So be intentional, set goals, create plans, and then actually execute the plans, because that's where the real value comes. All right, next question. How do I start to cultivate my professional brand while infusing my authentic self? Well, see, this is almost a trick question because believe it or not, you already have a brand. We all do. How you act, how you communicate with others, how you treat others, what you do every day or don't do every day has actually already created your brand. So you have one. The key is to know what it is. One of the things I recommend, which I've absolutely done on multiple occasions through my career, is do a 360. Actually reach out to people that you work with, that you interact with. So it can be in the office, it can be in your community, it can be friends, right? Reach out and ask them a very open-ended question. When you think of me, what are the, and pick a number, 5, 7, something like that, attributes that you think of when you think of me? And just let people tell you what they think. And make sure you ask at least 20 people. I mean, you have to ask a lot of people because what you want to do is to get that feedback and then look to see where there are commonalities. Is everyone saying that you are a leader? Is everyone saying you are somebody they can count on? Is everyone saying, right? You want to look. And then you'll find out what your brand actually is. Now, if you really want to learn, then you go back out again and you say, what are the 4 areas that you think I need to improve on? And here's tough because here's where you're going to get feedback, where they're going to tell you what you need to improve upon. Because believe it or not, your brand consists of what you are known for, as well as what your weaknesses, if you will, might be. All those things together make up your brand. Now, once you know your brand, is that the brand you want? If it isn't, then you need to figure out how to modify and change your behavior so that you become more of what you want to be. A brand isn't just telling the world, here's who I am, because if it doesn't match their experience with you, then it's not authentic and they won't believe it. So first, your brand is always authentic. And then if you're trying to help more people understand what your brand is, look for ways to get involved or become more public in things that are consistent with your brand. For instance, one of the things that I'm known for is leadership. So I get engaged and I work to lead different things, to start different initiatives, etc. And by doing that and communicating that, people continue to see me as a leader. So brand building is all about starting with who you are first. And frankly, if there are elements about you that you don't like or you want to improve or change, then you have to start with changing your behavior. And then take those areas that you want to reinforce and find ways to actually engage, show, demonstrate them on a broader platform. Next, I'm a very ambitious and resourceful person. I want to continue climbing the corporate ladder to reach my career goals, but find myself pigeonholed because of my specific expertise coupled with the fact that I'm not a yes person. I've been passed over multiple times for promotions because I'm the only person who can, quote, do what I do. How do I break the cycle and advance to bigger and broader opportunities? Well, my first advice is you need to broaden your skill set, right? Bottom line, what you're being told is you have skills that no matter what else you want to do, they see those as the only skills that you are really good at, and therefore they want to keep you in the job. So you need to broaden your skills so they can see that you're actually good at doing other things. That's number 1. Number 2, have a real conversation with your boss, your supervisor. And the real conversation is, I aspire to, and whatever the next level is that you're trying to go after, I aspire to reach XYZ level. The last couple of times there have been opportunities, you've told me that I'm just too valuable in my current job. My problem is this isn't what I want to do forever. So what do you need to see from me to be able to be considered for the next job? Right? Just have a very open and frankly direct conversation. And as long as you do it in a way that is professional and respectful, which was the example I just gave you, then it's fine. And they'll come back and tell you. What they might tell you is you need to recruit somebody who can actually backfill you. That's a fair thing. I've been told that multiple times in my career. You might find out that maybe there's some skill sets or some experience that they've been looking for from you that they haven't seen yet. So actually ask the question, And don't let them say, oh, you're doing everything fine. Because if they say that, then what they're telling you is you won't ever have opportunities to go beyond where you are. So if they say you're doing everything fine, you can say, great, I appreciate that. But what do I need to do to actually get promoted? What do I need to do to achieve this next level that I'm aspiring for? And if bottom line, they can't tell you what you need to do, and they aren't giving you encouragement that that's a possibility, then frankly, you probably need to look for another opportunity at a different company. Some companies, there aren't upward mobility opportunities. So better to find that out now and then make your decision. Next question. I'm stuck between consulting work and going back to higher education full time. I feel a need to be in higher education, but I like the freedom that comes with consulting. All right. Here's the good news about those two areas. You can actually do both. Many people in higher education, professors, also consult on the side. A number of consultants I know are adjunct professors at different universities. So you can actually do both if you want to. Bottom line is, I can't tell you exactly what you should do. Only you can decide that, but realize in this particular instance, it doesn't actually have to be an either or. Next question. As you move up in the organization ladder, do political skills help or hurt advancement? Here's a really good question. First of all, when people think of politics in the workplace, it's always a negative connotation, right? Somebody's political. But let me define what political in the context of work actually means. Political means that you take the time to actually understand how the organization works, the dynamics that people have, what their skill sets are and knowledge, and then you use the knowledge that you've gained about all that to try to further either the organization's mission or your mission. So politics all by itself is actually not a bad thing. And yes, you do need to understand how an organization works, what people do within an organization, how decisions get made, how you need to understand all of that in order for you to be successful in the organization over time if you want to actually advance. Now, the reason political and all that is used negatively is sometimes that becomes the only focus that a person has or that an organization has. Things only happen because of political ties and relationships. And that's where the mistake is. It's definitely not an only, but it is a skill set that's important to learn as you are executing and as you are working to grow your overall career. So spend time, understand, how does the organization work? How do decisions get made? What's actually valued, right? What are the paths to power? I mean, all those things are absolutely important to understand as you're building your career, because you want to make sure that as you're executing, getting things done, that you're getting them done in a manner that is consistent with how the organization actually works, and that you know who to go to for help and support and guidance. All right, next question. How does one find and approach a mentor? Great question. And this actually gives me a great lead in. I'm going to take a commercial break. And my commercial break is my book, Unapologetically Ambitious. Unapologetically Ambitious is now available in paperback, which I'm really excited about, starting next week, September 27th. And you can actually pre-order it now. And in it, not only does it answer the question about how to get mentors, because I talk about that a lot, but at the back of the book, I've actually included a section that's all about a personal planning guide. For every chapter in the book, there's a set of questions to help you think through what you can do, what you need to do, how to approach different aspects of your career and life so that you too can achieve what it is that you want to achieve. But let me tell you the short version of mentors. First of all, a mentor, that person does not have to be formal. I learned that really early in my career. I had an opportunity at IBM to tell IBM who I wanted my mentor to be. And I picked this guy that I knew, Roland Harris. He was a couple levels above me. He knew me. I liked him. I thought he liked me. So I put his name down to be my mentor. Well, he calls me up several days later. Shellye. I'm like, hey, Roland, Shellye, you put me down to be your mentor. And I was like, well, yeah, Roland, I thought you liked me. And he said, Shellye, you've got me. Go get somebody else. I was like, what? I mean, I never had a conversation with Roland about being my mentor. And yet it turns out he thought he was my mentor already, which meant it didn't have to be formal. But more than that, he told me to go get another one, which means I could have as many mentors as I wanted. And so when it comes to mentors, a mentor is just somebody that you can learn from, that you can take advice or perspective from. And that person can be a mentor for a short period of time or for a long period of time. It doesn't matter. But I do find that if you ask people to formally be your mentor, many times they decline. They decline. Why? Because they think, oh my goodness, time commitment, I don't have bandwidth, right? All those things. So I found the best way to get mentors is just start treating people like mentors. Don't ask them to be a mentor, right? And it starts with really simple questions first. Take the advice that they offer. And then over time, you earn the right to ask them deeper questions to spend time. And before you know it, I find they might actually claim you if you do well. Now, my book tells you exactly how to do this step by step, but that's the net of it. Just start treating people like mentors. Ask them for advice, but start simple with things that they can answer easily. Don't make the first question you ask somebody, what should I do with my career? That takes too much time, too much effort, too much of an investment. And people think, gosh, you don't have really the right to ask me that. Instead, ask them something tactical about what you can do to improve your current execution. You might ask somebody, I've seen you speak. You're a great speaker. What advice do you have for me? I'm getting ready to do a speech in 2 weeks, right? That's a simple question to answer that they can answer really quickly. So that's how you start. All right, next question. I sometimes feel that even after delivering more than expected and being a high achiever, I'm still not being visible to the right people. How do I increase my visibility? Really good question. Many of us, we work hard, we put our heads down, and then we just think that people are going to realize what it is that we're doing. And the answer is nope. Everybody's busy. And so they may or may not pay attention to what you are actually doing. So sometimes it's important to let people know what you do. And I don't mean go out there and say, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing, da-da-da-da, right? That's not what I mean. People don't like to be around folks like that. But instead, do it subtly. And most of us get the opportunity just about every day. Somebody will ask you, hey, Shellye, how are you? What's going on? What's happening? Right? And I could say, I'm doing fine. Things are good. Right? Whatever. No. What I'm here to tell you is when people ask you that question, you're not doing fine. You're not good. You're not great. What are you? You are excited. You're excited. You've been working on this project to help a customer implement blah, blah, blah. And it finally happened and the customer's thrilled. Whew, right? Quick, 30 seconds. Shellye, how are you? Oh my God, I'm exhausted. We just spent the last 2 months working on a systems upgrade that after a couple stumbles finally went through. And now, blah, 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 right? Shellye, how are you? Oh my goodness. I am so proud of my team. Do you know what they just did? Blah, 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 right? The key is 30 seconds. When people ask you how you are, weave in how you're doing by what you are doing. Then people get a sense of, Shellye's always got something going on. Whenever I ask her how she is, something's always happening, right? That it helps prove your visibility and more people know what it is that you actually do. So that's my biggest advice. Make sure people know what you do. Next, how do you negotiate for more money when you're at the top end of the pay grade for your work level and teetering onto the next level? When you have the more impressive background, but lack years of position to be elevated. All right, here's the key. I'm going to be really frank. If you're at the top of the pay band for your particular role, it's really hard to get more money. Every role has a value to the company, and that role is typically defined by a pay grade. So if you're at the top of that pay grade, then you have to figure out how to get into the next pay grade. So we talk about being promoted is hard because you haven't been here that long, but this is a great conversation with your boss to say, hey, you're telling me I'm performing well because I'm a high achiever. I'm at the top of the pay grade, so you also tell me you can't give me big promotions. So therefore, what I'd like to do is earn the right to get another promotion. So what is additional responsibility that I can take on that would give me the ability to earn more? right? So you can ask for it. Again, professionally, politely, and in the context of you want to earn it. So you want to deliver something more to the company, right? And if that means a promotion, then ask, what do I have to demonstrate and show to be promoted, given that you've already told me I'm at the highest level I can possibly be at this current role? So the key is to actually have the conversation and to be straightforward but professional about it. And then it works. And you can also, if you're afraid to say that directly, then you can do it in terms of advice, right? You can go to your boss and say, I really need some advice. You're telling me that I'm a top achiever because that's what you've rated me. And you've told me I'm being paid at the top of the band, which I appreciate, which means I'm actually delivering what you expect. But frankly, I have high aspirations and I want to figure out how can I contribute more here so that I have the opportunity to earn more here. Because this is where I want to build my career, right? And you say something like that to let them know that you do have options. You're not threatening them, right? But it does remind them that you do have options. You don't have to stay where you are. Okay, next question. Shellye, I started my career as a technical person and was able to excel in it, becoming a technical lead at Oracle in 6 years. Then I took a break to take care of my little ones. Break extended quite a bit and we moved to the US. And later, with my friend's encouragement, I took the path of project management and I'm excelling here as well. In 3.5 years, I've become program manager and have gained very good trust and respect among my team members. But I still have the interest to go back to the technical field. I want to learn data science concepts and get in there, but I'm a bit confused. Will it be bad/silly if I change my career path now that everything's going good? Please advise. Well, here's the key. Good news, bad news. Good news is you have a lot of years to work, all right? And your career is your career. So if you really are interested in getting back into the technical side and want to get into data science, then my advice is do that. The fact that you've demonstrated earlier in your career that you could be successful in the technical field, and now you've demonstrated you could learn a new area and be good at that, what that's telling me is you are adaptable and you'll be good at whatever it is that you choose to do. The key is to decide and to be intentional. So if you want to move over to the technical side, have the conversation with some people at Oracle, with an advisor, hopefully you have one, with somebody maybe who's already in the data science side in the technical arena. Talk to them about opportunities, let them know your interest. Maybe there's a project you can work on kind of ad hoc before you actually make the career jump to determine if this is really what you want to do. But my advice is pursue what you are really interested in, especially given that you've proven that you're adaptable. Because here's the key. If it doesn't work out and it turns out you don't like it, you know you're good at program management and so do they. So odds are you can always go back to that path if you need to. Okay, next. In spite of hearing and reading your story about how you manage work and home, why do women dread to make the aggressive career moves and are not ready to give up control of family-related matters? I myself feel guilty that I can't spend time with my kids if I choose to move up in my career. But I also feel sad that I'm going slowly when I dreamed of this career path as a child. You kind of answered the question. It's the guilt, right? Why do people struggle, and especially women? I personally believe it's because society judges us so harshly that we feel guilty. We feel like we are judged on everything, and therefore we have to be excellent at everything, but especially in those areas that society seems to be telling us women we're supposed to be good at. So how do you manage it? Well, first of all, this whole concept of work-life balance, I don't believe in it. Matter of fact, I don't even like the term work-life balance, but let me explain why. What is a balance? It's a fixed structure, fixed, right? A pole with 2 weights on each side, and the weights are even at all times. Well, if one side is work and one side is family, right? How hard is it when life goes up and down and twists and turns to actually keep everything even at all times? Nobody can keep everything even at all times. There will be times in your life when you've got to devote more time to family. Things are happening. Maybe there's a health issue there. Who knows, right? And there are times when you need to devote more time to work, special project, right? Key initiative, whatever it might be. It's okay for these things to move around. The key, though, the key is to make sure that when you're putting your priorities together, professional priorities, personal priorities, that you put them together and that you reprioritize ruthlessly so that you actually get done what absolutely must get done on both sides of the equation. And what that means is at different times, there's going to be other things that just don't get done. And you've got to learn to either live with it or find someone else, find help to get those things done. Now, you might be saying, Shellye, that sounds so easy to do, but it's so hard. Yes, it's hard. But I found the best way to make it easier is for you to decide what you are willing to be judged on. You, not anybody else, you. And let me give you an example. Because the world wants to judge us on everything, especially as women. They want to judge us not only on, gosh, how we look, what jobs do we have, how our homes look, what cars we drive, how our kids are, who we married, what vacations. I mean, all these things, right? All of us, men, women, we're all judged on all this stuff. All you have to do is look at Instagram, right? But no, the key is you decide. When my daughter was young, she had thick curly hair that looked best when it was brush combed and braided, right? To keep it tame. Well, my former late husband, when he was young, had he ever learned how to brush, comb, and braid little girls' hair? No. He was a big man. He had big hands. He had never brushed, combed, and plaited little girls' hair. Did he need to learn? He did. Because we were both parents, and we were both going to need to take care of her and get her ready in the morning. So when he's learning, while he was learning, he tried, but crooked parts, uneven braids, braids coming out, fuzz, whatever. She walked out of the house many a time looking pretty messed up, right? Pretty jacked up here. Now, she was only 3-4 years old, going off to preschool. Did she care what she looked like? No. And he needed to learn. But do I know for a fact that when she got to school, people looked at her and said, where's her mother? How could she let her out of the house looking like that? I know they did. But you know what? I let it roll right off. I didn't care. I didn't care because that's not what was important to me at the time. What was important to me and to our family at the time, back to priorities, is he needed to learn how to do her hair. And frankly, after a couple weeks, he did. And she started looking just fine, right? Do you think she walks around as a 30-something-year-old right now and says, one day my parents let me walk out of the house with my hair looking messed up? No, she doesn't remember. She doesn't care. She's fine. We all are. So the key is you decide what's important to you and put your priorities and efforts on that and let the rest go. It just doesn't matter. Okay. Next question. What do you do when your manager has a different idea of how to progress your career within the company? Include changing the company resume yet again. Not sure what that means, but here's the key. You own your career. You, not your boss, not your mentor, not your spouse, mother, sister, but you own your career. Do not let your boss define your career. Have the conversation and let your boss know what it is that you aspire to, right? What is it you want? You can do your own work to understand what the organization values, right? And how things happen and work in the company. And when your boss says, well, I think you ought to do X, and that doesn't meet what you want to do, then you have the conversation to say, I can appreciate that you want me to do X, but I'm actually interested in becoming Y. So let's talk about how that might happen. And I realize the company may need me to do X. So if there's a way to do X while heading to Y, then let's talk about how that can happen, right? You own your career. Have the conversation, again, professionally, politely, right? All those things. But don't just blindly do what others want you to do, right? I see people sit here all the time. They work hard, right? Heads down, they get tapped on the shoulder. Oh, you can do this now. Okay, go off and do that. Tap, tap, tap. You can do that now. Okay. But then they wake up and they're like 10 years in their career, 15 years in their career, and they're not where they expected to be because they let somebody else drive their career. You own your career. I talk a lot about that in the book. The book is all about how to be intentional and get what you want. All right, next. How do you make advancements in your career without losing work-life balance? Well, we kind of just talked about that. The key is how you prioritize. It's putting your personal and professional priorities together, but then reprioritizing so you get done what's important to you across the spectrum of your life. That's really the key. And are there going to be times when you have to spend a bit more time on one side than the other? The answer is absolutely. And that's okay. Everyone does that. The key is it shouldn't be so lopsided that you aren't getting done what's important to you across the rest of the spectrum of your life. You can still advance in your career. Figure out what your goal is, put a plan in place to achieve that goal, and then make sure that you're being intentional and working toward it every day. That's how you get it done. You no longer have to be in the either or position. And again, I'll point you to Unapologetically Ambitious. Lots of good advice in there about how to do it. All right, I see a question that just came in on the chat. How do you deal with a very passive boss who doesn't invest in your potential future as your manager? Find somebody else. And what I mean by that is I've absolutely had bosses in my career where I wasn't their priority. And that's going to happen. And by the way, if it hasn't happened to you yet, it probably will before you finish working 30, 40 years. So how do you deal with it? Don't wait for that person to suddenly wake up and change. They're not going to change. So when you have a boss that's passive and not actively working to support you, here's where you leverage mentors and advisors and relationships that you've developed beyond your boss within your organization. And that's what's key. It's key to make sure that you are constantly developing relationships throughout the organization, not just with your own boss. And let other people know what your interests are, what you aspire to. And I don't mean walk around saying, hey, I want to be vice president one day and I want everybody to know it, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is as you develop relationships with other people and you're able to weave into conversations with, one day I aspire actually to have a role like yours. What advice might you have for me on maybe experiences or skill sets that would be good to develop, right? Or you can tell somebody, one day I'd love to do blah, 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 even if it's not in their area, right? Do you think there'll be more opportunities like that in the future, given the company's strategy, right? Have conversations that let people know beyond your boss of what you're interested in. I got one of the best promotions in my life when I got the opportunity to relocate to Japan to become general manager of a division. Why did that happen? Not because my boss necessarily put me up for it, but because someone that I had talked to a couple years prior and had mentioned that one day I'd love to do an overseas assignment, and specifically in Japan and blah, blah, blah. Well, they ended up getting an assignment in Japan and they reached out to me because they remembered the conversation. You never know who can be helpful. So it's okay to share your aspirations and interests broadly in the right way, right? Don't just say to everybody, oh, excuse me, let me just tell you what I want to do, right? Find ways to weave things into the conversation. And typically it's not hard. And if you can't figure out how to do it, start by asking other people, what do you aspire to? Do you have any goals in terms of your career? And then once they tell you, many times they'll then ask you what yours is. So great, you have a chance to respond. And if they don't ask you what yours is, you're now on the topic so that you can share what yours is. Yeah, that's great. Here's what I'm thinking about, right? All right, here's another question that's come in. Oops. Hello, I'm a proud, oops, I missed it. If you put it on Instagram and I missed it, please add it again. Here's the next one. I love your approach to having full control of outcomes. I think many people are afraid to quit. Either they take it personally or they're afraid of how to handle questions during an interview. You know what? Fear is one of the things that holds so many of us back. But here's what I'll tell you. What I do when I face fear or when I feel challenged or scared, right, is I ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? And can I live with it? And you know what? Most of the times you can live with it. The worst that can happen is you ask for a raise and they say no. You ask for a promotion and they say no. Well, what happened? They didn't fire you, right? You didn't lose your life or anything. All they told you was no. But let me tell you, getting a no is great, because when you get a no, you get a chance to ask why not. And in the why not and their answer, you typically find out things that you can do to actually get what you want. So just realize it's not the end of the world to get a no. So it's okay. Next one. I know it's hard to ask, but do you know any great HOP? It be possible. I'm not sure what HOP is. So whoever, KIYANIBM, if you could put that in again, that would be great. Okay, here's another question coming from the chat on YouTube. I went to a senior executive to mentor me internally and help me navigate my advancement. Okay, good. I did the right thing. Yes, you absolutely did. Jay, thank you. Tells me they love my book. Here's another question. How do you deal with backlash cyberbullying from an abusive manager? Oh, goodness. If you have an abusive manager, find a new one. No one should have to deal with abuse. So the first thing I would do is go to HR and let them know that you have an abusive manager. I mean, abusive, you're using the word abusive, so I'm taking it very literally. Do not stay in an abusive environment, personally or professionally. Do not. That's my answer there. What tips do you have for ramping up in a new role? The best first question to ask your new boss when you get a new role is, what does success look like? What does success look like? Because many times their idea of success doesn't match the job description. And you could be executing on the job description and yet not meeting expectations. So always ask what success looks like, and then build a personal plan, right, on how you are going to actually achieve that while you have the job. Break it into segments, first 90 days, first year, etc. But that way you are staying on track with how to perform well in your boss's eye and in their perspective. So always ask the question, what does success look like? And write it down. Make sure they see you writing it down. Because then when you do check-ins, you can check in to say, hey, when I first started the job, you told me you wanted to see blah, blah, blah. I've done X, Y, Z. Is this what you expected? Right? And that way you stay in sync with what they expect and how you're performing. All right. Next. Okay. Feel free, put questions in the chat and I'll be happy to address. Okay, next one. Have you ever experienced anxiety or panic attacks when dealing with work stress, and how did you cope with it? For me, it's causing me to be paralyzed with fear, and I'm scared to do my work. Okay, what I'll tell you is I have not had anxiety to the point where it's paralyzed me. But that said, what I have done is I've actually made myself depressed. I've had so much to do and so much coming at me that I actually went into a depression. It happened in my late 20s. I talk about it in the book. And let me tell you what worked for me. I actually sought professional help. I went to see a psychologist and talked through what was going on and what was causing me the depression and how to deal with it. And let me tell you, I learned a lot. I learned what I need to stay mentally healthy. And then I put those things into practice. And it never happened to me again. So my biggest advice, if you are facing debilitating issues, whether it's anxiety or depression or whatever it might be, go get professional help and work through it. Because whatever is getting you, it's real. And until you deal with it, it's going to be very hard to function at the top peak of your ability. And therefore, you're just holding yourself back if you don't deal with it. So that's my biggest advice. Seek out some professional help so that you can figure out what's causing the anxiety and how you can work through it. You have way too much to offer to go through your career paralyzed. Next question. This is from Chiara in Italy. Being ambitious may lead to trajectories that take us far from our families and loved ones. How do we cope with this? And how do you help others dealing with our absence? How do we deal ourselves with sometimes the loneliness that ambition can bring? Really good questions. So first, there were many times when I did travel a lot. As a matter of fact, twice in my career, I commuted. Once from Maryland to New York City, And that was a week. I'd go leave on, Monday or sometimes Sunday and back on Friday, if I was lucky, Thursday. And I did that for almost a year. And then the next time was 3 years, from Texas to California. So have I been there? Absolutely. How do you manage it? All right. First of all, make sure that you're staying in communication in a way that your family, kids, spouse know that you're thinking about them even when you're not there. And many times it's just a little note, a little text, right? They've got a ballet performance. You send a quick note to say, hey, wishing you well. Sorry, I can't be there, right? It's letting them know that you actually care about them even when you're not there. So that's one. Two, talk to them about it. Talk to them about it. Kids see what's happening. They see that you're traveling. They know that you're doing it for work. But a lot of times they don't know what we're actually doing or what we're achieving or what we're even aspiring to. It's okay to share with them so that they become part of what you're trying to do. So they become part of the we, and it's not just you. And that way they can be excited and interested for you, right, on what you're doing. So talk to them through it. Next, when you're home, try to spend time doing the things you want to do versus things that you have to do. And let me explain what I mean by that. The place to get help is to actually hire somebody to do, I don't know what it might be, the laundry, cleaning your home, whatever, so that when you're home, you're able to be present with your spouse, your partner, or your kids, and somebody else is doing the other stuff. And this can be true whether you travel or you're just working hard. Many times, I tell people, hire somebody for the witching hour. To me, the witching hour is like 4 p.m. to about 7 or 8 p.m. every night. When you come home from work, kids come home from school, right? And you've got all these things to do. Make dinner, get people fed, prepare lunches for the next day, do homework, blah, blah, right? All those are all things that are not things that you necessarily want to do. They're not the fun, high quality things. They're just things you have to do. Well, get help. Let somebody else make the dinner, clean the kitchen, do the laundry, pack the lunch, right? So that you can actually sit on the floor and play with your kids if that's what you want to do. Or you can get on a bike and go bike ride with your son. Or you can go to a game or whatever it might be, right? Use your resources to help you spend time where you want to spend time so that you can still create and develop those relationships. Here's one coming across the text. For those changing or evolving careers later in life, do you feel there is ageism in the workplace? And how can we get through it? Yes. Yes, there is absolutely ageism in the workplace. How do you get through it? Demonstrate your energy. People associate age with a lack of energy. And so you can act a whole lot younger than you are, and therefore erase the whole ageism issue. And by doing that, you just show you have energy. You're positive, you're interested in learning, you're pushing people, right? You're engaged. It's all of that. Many times it's how you hold yourself, present yourself that can actually help, if you will, break that overall barrier. The other thing is if you're interviewing and you think it's holding you back, put it on the table. Right? When you're interviewing, you can actually say something like, I'm sure I'm older than most people that you are interviewing, right? They're already thinking it, so just put it on the table. But let me tell you the advantage that I bring to you that others with less experience won't have. And then rattle off what the advantage is. The fact that you actually address their issue that they're not putting on the table can be disarming. And it gives them, right, the knowledge and data they need to fight for you when they want to hire you. So those are my advices for the ageism piece. Let me get back to the second part of Chiara's question, which was how do you deal with the loneliness that ambition may bring? That's a real thing. Let me tell you what I did. When I became a CEO at 40, I definitely felt lonely because I had no peers. So it's like, I need peers. I need people that I can talk to and let my hair down, because everybody either worked for me or I worked for them. I didn't have anybody that I could just be real with or say, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, right? So what did I do? Well, I pulled together a group, just an informal one, of other women who were also trying to build companies. And I picked a group that was just women, mainly because I was in Silicon Valley in the early, when it was early 2000s. And there just weren't a lot of women. And so some of the issues I faced absolutely had to do because I was a woman. So I wanted other people that could deal with my experience. And we became each other's peers. And so suddenly it wasn't as lonely. We would reach out to each other, right? Say, oh, I'm facing this. I need to redo my cap table. I'm doing whatever it might be, things that you're facing you haven't done before. So my biggest advice is create your circle, create your network, right? The small group that you can go to. Because trust me, I found other people wanted and needed the exact same thing. You don't have to do this alone. You don't. Take help. All right. Let me come up. Any other questions? I'm looking on the Instagram. I don't see any. I'm looking on YouTube and I don't see any additional questions. And I've hit all the ones. Well, actually all but one. So let me go over the last question. This one came to me on YouTube written, but I wasn't quite clear. So give me a chance to explain this one. The note says, hello, I've been working on the job for 26 years full-time and part-time at the same company 12 years prior for a total of 37. My question is, when I was an intern in a higher position for 3.5 years, they said I did an awesome job. But when the job was posted, they didn't give it to me. They gave it to someone else who was actually a lateral move. I felt hurt about it and feel that I was used the entire time because I did the job but didn't actually get it full time. My boss would like me to write a statement about this, and I told her, no, what should I do? I'm not quite sure because it sounds like it happened a long time ago. I'm not quite sure what the statement would be. So it's Dietrich. So Dietrich, if you're listening, right, drop me another note and maybe you can just clarify what kind of statement your boss is looking for you to write and why, because I just don't understand. Okay. All right. And then one more question on Instagram. Any tips for improving business writing? Yes. Practice. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Write things when it doesn't count, right? If the only business writing you do is when it counts, like you're writing a paper for your boss or something, somebody's asked you to write an article for a newsletter or whatever it might be, and that's the only time you're writing, then it counts every time, right? Practice writing when it doesn't count. And that's what I mean by practice. You can practice writing to submit, articles on LinkedIn or, all kinds of things. But then when you write, find a person or two who are willing to be your editors. So that you write something, you send it to them, let them read it and give you feedback. Is it clear, right? Is it not clear? Is it compelling? Is it not compelling? Where's the challenge? Where's the issue? Frankly, I've done that. I'm a Forbes contributor and I used my sister-in-law. I'd send Lydia my articles, literally. As I wrote it down, I'd send it to her and ask for her feedback. And I asked her in advance if I could do this. And she said yes, because she's good in this particular area. And she would. She'd give me ideas, feedback, criticisms. The best way to improve your writing is you have to be vulnerable. You've got to share it with other people, ask for feedback, take and incorporate the feedback, make the changes, right? And then over time, you'll start learning more about how to be more and more effective. I did the same thing with my book. I wrote my book and then I'd send it out and ask people, all right, what do you think? When do you find it compelling? Da-da-da-da-da. And the first set of feedback wasn't great. And it's heartbreaking. You're like, poured your life and soul into this thing. And boy, people are telling you it's not good. But here's the key. That's the only way to make it better. So I'd go back and rework it, and send it back out again. So I didn't send it to a publisher until it was actually as good as it could possibly be. And that took a lot of time and effort. So how to improve the business writing? Do it. Ask other people for input and review and edit and criticism before you finalize it. And then submit or provide it. Okay. That's all I've got for today. Well, listen, I want to thank everybody on Instagram as well as on YouTube for participating. Know that I do this every month. So if you register on my YouTube channel, you will get notifications when the next one is. I have a blog at ShellyeArchambeau.com, which are items that I've written over the years to share a lot of input and insights, so you can find information there. And I also have an entire resource on Shellye.com, SHELLYE.com. And also check out the book. And I know this is backwards, but check out the book. I think you might find it helpful, especially given that the paperback, which will be out next week on the 27th, has an entire section that's a personal planning guide to help you put a plan in place for yourself to achieve the things that you want. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.